welcome to David Friedman. Our featured speaker here tonight. Really excited to have you. And I know we have a variety of people, on either the startup side, a few just in the real estate industry, and some students as well that really excited to learn about, your journey through starting several companies in this industry, and what you're doing now with with Knox Financial, and your new innovative approach to wealth creation through home financing.
Awesome, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So can you give us a quick introduction to what Knox is and the platform you built together?
Absolutely. So Knox is making it incredibly easy to turn a home you own into an income property. And there's a couple of basic use cases. The first is, for whatever reason, it's time for you to move. Examples are, you've got a new job, you're having a kid, you're getting married, you're retiring, and you say, hey, this home that I live in and I own, it's gone up in value dramatically. It's in fact probably my best investment. Why would I sell my best investment? I'm pretty sure it's going to continue to go up in value. And our answer is, don't sell. Turn it into an income property and do it through Knox. Lots of people do this on their own. We're taking something that is a lot of work and making it very turnkey. We like to say we're making it as easy to own an income property as it is to own a share of Apple or Microsoft. We send you a check and a statement every quarter, 1099 at the end of the year, and we handle everything else.
That sounds great. So how did you get into this space? Like, did you own investment properties yourself, or what led you to, seeing this as an opportunity to, build a company around and put technology and a platform in place to do that?
Sure. So I do own investment property. I just bought another one like 2.5 weeks ago, and I'm putting it directly into the Knox program. It's kind of a dream come true for me. That's the other customer profiles. We have investors or property owners putting their units in our program and simplifying their investment off of their own desk and onto ours. The way I arrived at this idea was I owned this home that I lived in the South End for 10 years. And while I lived there, it went up in value about $250,000. And I thought that was really great. And when I sold it, I pocketed $250,000 in cash. I actually bought a different home with that money. And I thought it was a really awesome outcome. And then a year later, I was having lunch with the realtor that I work with. And he said, his name's Rich. He said, oh yeah, that condo you sold, it's worth another $100,000 now. And I almost spit out my soup. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. He's like, yeah, the South End's going through the roof. I'm like, the South End, I thought already went through the roof. Well, it kept going up, and then 4 years after I had sold it sold for $200,000 more than what I had originally sold it for. And I beside myself and really unhappy that I'd sold it. I literally could have let the unit sit there empty, paying the taxes and the mortgage on it. And I would have made $100,000 in that 4-year period, because that was like my holding costs, my carrying costs, let alone renting it out. Right. So that sort of got me thinking. There's probably a lot of other people who are having the same thought. In fact, I started mentioning this blunder to friends of mine, and everybody had a story. Like, oh my gosh, kid, like people 20 years older than me, forget about it. I own this unit in Brooklyn. I sold it for $200,000 in '88, and now it's worth $2 million. Like you're $200,000 lost. Forget about it. Like you're nothing. Or I own this home pondside in JP, and now it's worth 7 figures. I sold it for $125,000. Right. So it's a common battle story for homeowners. They wish they still own their first home, and why don't they still own their first home? Because being a landlord is a pain in the butt. Because they couldn't figure out how to put all the pieces together, because finding a lawyer and a property manager and a rental agency and a maintenance guy or gal, it's all a lot of work. Figure out the financing and the insurance. People think about it. They think about it for like 15 minutes and they go screw it, and they list the home and they miss out. And we said, well, if we could just remove all that transactional friction and make it super easy, we think millions of people will not sell and they'll become our customers.
No, I mean, that sounds great. So do you put, when you have these cases where somebody says, this is super complicated, like, I don't think I can handle it, but, happy to let Knox handle it. Is everything under, all the services you mentioned, are they all under the Knox umbrella, or do you help match them with, the right people in this real estate space to take care of it, or
That's
how
a good
does the
question.
platform work?
Under the product, everything's taken care of, but we don't do all of that work. So for example, we don't do any maintenance ourselves. We work with third-party maintenance companies, and we've pre-negotiated better rates than any individual could get if they went straight to that company. So we outsource, say, parts and labor to these third-party companies, and then we pay for them on behalf of the customer. We actually manage an account for every customer. So we collect rent on behalf of the customer into that account. We pay all the expenses, be that the mortgage, taxes, insurance, condo fees, maintenance costs, out of that account. We send them the net profit.
Right.
We do have an insurance brokerage operation, a mortgage brokerage operation. We do all the rentals in-house. We do all the property management. Like, when you dial the phone, you talk to either somebody that works for us or a contractor of ours. So pretty much everything else about being or about the process, we're handling internally.
Okay. And with this market, like, what's your main interaction with the customers? Are people calling you? Are they, doing everything digitally? Is it?
So initially, most of our inquiries are digital inbound.
Right.
So they're through our website, or like we live chat with people on our website all the time. Like I'll be at lunch, I'll live chat with somebody on our website. We get phone calls, but that's most of it. The vast majority is either the phone. Actually, I'd say the web is like 80% of it, 90% of it. The rest is inbound phone.
Right.
And then some of it might be at an event like this. Like one of you is thinking about selling a home in the next 6 months. Do not leave without talking to me, because you'd be missing out. But that's that's minuscule. And then that conversation that lead almost always transitions into a conversation over the phone. And then we actually visit every single home before it comes into the program. We want to make sure it doesn't have, wires sticking out of the walls or holes in the floor or something like that. We have sort of a pretty high minimum standard. And to be honest, we've yet to visit a home that wasn't really decent shape.
Right. Okay. So have you had to turn down any?
Nope.
No. Okay.
So one of the things we also do is we analyze every home to see how it'll perform as an investment, and we're incredibly transparent. So we let you know what your cash flow should look like, year zero, what it's going to look like in a projection, what kind of net equity you should have going out. We give everybody a 30-year projection on the home. It's like this 12-page PDF we send along. We've built software to build that. It's got nice graphs and stuff in it. And there are definitely people who go, oh yeah, this doesn't work for my finances, because there's homes that they would love to put in the program, but they're going to be negative cash flowing $800 a month, and they can't sustain that, right? So on a balance sheet, they might be building $20,000 a year in wealth, but they can't sustain a negative 10 grand a year cash flow situation just because of their expenses, and we totally get that. So that's happened a few times.
Right. Yeah. So as you're building out this platform, and your team, and scaling up your team, where does the focus lie between real estate expertise, technology, people like sales and marketing? What are you looking, what have you built up, and where's your focus on, like, how your team operates day to day?
Sure. I wouldn't say we have one focus. We're in a few areas. In no particular order, operations and finance is huge, because we are taking over the financial responsibility for each of these homes. So we have to make sure rent is collected, bills are paid, all this is automated through our system, and then it's all recorded on our software, and then we can send out statements and 1099s and things like that. So getting that to the penny is incredibly important, and it's not something we would ever, even fathom like risking. So that's an incredibly important bedrock. And also operationally, we have to advertise units and put tenants in them, make sure the tenants are happy. So there's staff for that. And then we have a lot of marketing focus, because we're brand new, not just a brand new brand, but we're also a brand new concept. Like, nobody's done what we're doing. So we're educating a lot of people. So we have, I could say we've amassed a dream team. So we have a lot of specialists in a marketing group. Most of them are not full-time employees. They're 1099s or part-time folks who are experts in what they do. So we've got a digital agency, we have a radio agency, we have PR, we have sort of another group of people who's just doing digital ad buy, Facebook and Google. Myself and my co-founder are sort of Renaissance marketers anyway, so we're running HubSpot, and we're running a bunch of other stuff. We have a Salesforce consultant. This is all integrated stuff. So we kind of have this dream team of folks. We have a branding and messaging guy who does nothing but branding and messaging for really awesome consumer brands. He was the VP of marketing for Betterment. And so twice a week we have a half-hour call with everybody just to keep everybody on the same page because they're literally in different states.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when did the platform launch, and how has that branding and marketing sort of changed or evolved since since you came up with the concept?
Okay, so when did we launch? We launched 90 days ago, so we were a very new company, and we've got this nice graph of things going up to the right for 90 days. It's pretty sweet. I just sent it out to our investors earlier today. So how has our brand evolved since then? Mostly we've been, in 90 days, not a really super long time, we've been searching for really great messaging. So what is the message, both written and visual, and what language do we use to have a good interrupt with folks, and to get them to click on an ad, to get them to respond to a postcard, to get them to listen to a radio ad, and then getting that in, then there's a lot of tweaking to get it to fit into like a 15-second spot or a 20-second spot on the radio or something like that, or onto a 4x6 postcard. But we ran numerous ads and tried to figure out what messaging and imagery combos to what audiences, and see if you could find any signal in the noise. So it's evolved, but mostly we've just eliminated things that didn't work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of split testing. More broadly, we thought we were going to be doing a lot more financing than we are. We're doing a lot, we do a lot of insurance for every single property in the program. Obviously, we're doing all the books, the rent collection, and finding tenants, and all that's happening. But we've been actually surprised by how few of our customers are using any of our financing tools. So as a financial institution, we're mostly doing the real heart of the financing is more bookkeeping and statement production and insurance than it is, say, debt financing.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, this isn't your first real estate technology venture either, and the last one was successful until what became property based. Yeah, can you dive into that story a little bit and some of the lessons you learned from from that shaped what you're doing now in Knox?
Yeah, absolutely. So I founded a company in 2004 called Boston Logic, which is now known as Property Base. It's over at 321 Summer Street in the Seaport these days. But that's headquarters. It has offices on a few continents and in a bunch of U.S. cities as well. Boston Logic, now Property Base, makes software for the real estate brokerage world. So people who would help you buy, sell, or rent a home are the customers of Property Base. And these days, Property Base owns several pieces of software, because what happens when private equity invests in you is they don't want to just buy you, they want to use you to buy a whole bunch of other companies and consolidate you all and turn you into something big. So when we sold that company, we sold it to a $50-odd billion private equity firm, and that's exactly what they've done. And I still sit on the board there, but mostly I'm not really telling them how to do acquisitions, because they are vastly more experienced than I am. I'm more advising the C team there these days. So I launched that company with a close friend of mine named Matt Weiss back in 2004, and we looked at the real estate brokerage vertical and realized it was incredibly behind the times in technology. In a lot of ways, it really still is, but back then it was kind of in 1995 and it was 2004, and we were a couple guys who realized we could help some people. We got some contracts to help some folks, and along the way figured out that we needed to build some software to really deliver the type of solutions we wanted to deliver. Matt actually ended up going to Sloan for business school, and I took over the company. And so we slowly, this was sort of a bootstrap story, slowly built a piece of software off of revenue. And then that piece of software went from 1 client to 10 clients to 100 clients. And we said, okay, this is like a real SaaS product that we can tell a story around. We went out and raised a little money, raised a little bit more. And every time we did, things kept going up and to the right really nicely. And then we were sort of early to that game. We realized that more people were figuring out that real estate needed some investment. And so around 2013, 2014, we started watching people all around us popping up. seed fundings and A rounds and B rounds, and they were all brand new and we'd been there a while. And so you sort of were watching a market mature around you. So I said to our board, I'm like, hey guys, we know what happens when industries mature like this. You know, when you have seed rounds and A rounds happening, you're going to have Bs, you have Cs, people are looking for exits, there'll be exit paths forming. And so we sort of telegraphed what was going to happen there.
Yeah, you had success through that pathway into the private equity space. Do you have a similar goal and vision, exit strategy for this company, or too early to say?
I think that if you run a good company, you build it responsibly, you make your clients happy, you make your investors happy, you make your employees happy by running a good company and growing well and aggressively. And what exit path is right for that company will have everything to do with the timing and the economics and the type of business that you can build given many variables that you don't control. So my answer for you for Knox anyway is we're going to build a great company, we're going to build a large company, and whatever exit path presents itself at the right time, we will take that exit. Yeah, I mean it's not going to be tomorrow, obviously. We haven't been around a year, but in several years there will probably be a timing and a planning event, and we'll do something. It could be 5 years, it could be 10 years.
Right.
We'll see.
Yeah. So what if either on the success side or the challenge side that you faced during the first venture, what have you taken from that sort of shaped what you're doing now?
I mean, about a billion things. I founded Knox with a great guy named Spencer Taylor. He's a friend, and he was a member of the senior team at Boston Logic. He was a friend before he joined, and the number of things he and I have learned in our career, and we know to spin up from day zero as we're building Knox that we had no idea about 10 or 15 years ago. We met like at least a decade ago. You just can't even count them. So what technologies we need to put in place, what processes we need to put in place, how to build for a scalable future or build for the day when you're going to hire someone to take responsibilities X, Y, and Z off your desk. So we're putting in place all sorts of systems and tools that we probably took years to put in place at Boston Logic are now in place from year one at Knox, and we know it's right to invest that money. We also know what mistakes we made last time. We're avoiding those mistakes. And then incredible numbers of lessons in personnel. People tell you all the time the most critical thing is who you hire and who you fire and who you keep around. And that's like baked into our founding documents at Knox. So we're very big on making sure we're hiring amazing people, putting them in the right seat on the bus, and keeping them around for the right amount of time, and hiring very carefully and slowly, because if you hire in haste, you regret at your own leisure, as a mentor of mine says.
When you're doing that hiring, like what type of company culture are you looking to build and promote there?
This is a lot of things. So first of all, we're looking for people we say we're building a SEAL team. You should be able to look to your right, look to your left, and feel like you're 100% supported by somebody who you're incredibly impressed by, and who having them on your team makes you feel like you will do better, right? And if you don't feel like all the people around you are living up to that, you have to say something. So that's part of the culture. So you need incredibly high-producing, amazing people. Simultaneously, you need people who live healthy lives. Overworked people, no thanks. Mean people, definitely not. It's something we say, A players and C players don't like each other because they make one another look bad. And, that's a critical part of how we're hiring. And then also culturally, if you're like I don't contribute to culture person, I do my thing and I go home, you're probably not right for our team either.
Yeah. So you're doing, obviously, you said like not overworking, but also, being extremely, supportive of the mission as a whole. What types of team building activities or experiences outside of the office are you putting together?
I don't think we do anything like crazy. Yeah. But we do like holiday things. We go out for beers. We I'd say one of the more fun, like cultural, we're only like 5 people in the office full time, like that are sitting in the office every day. Like we go to coffee with each other at least once, often twice a day. I go to lunch with the co-founder, Spencer, like 4 days a week. So like that culture just sort of happens, but that happens at our scale. If we double or triple our size, you wouldn't get the entire company going to coffee together every day. That'd be unlikely.
Right.
Yeah, and you know, often like today, 2 of them went to coffee and I was in the middle of something, so they got me a coffee. That I don't even know how much coffee we buy for each other every day, but there's a lot of like, oh, I'll get it, right? So it's not like everybody's ordering and paying. It's we're treating one another, even though I'm sure it somehow nets out.
Yeah. And then I mean obviously you launched the platform 90 days ago, and you're growing pretty quickly. So where are you spending most of your time now? Is it managing the team, going out like fundraising, or talking with potential, larger, talking with the customers themselves? Yeah, how do you spend a typical day?
A typical day, I'd say the number one thing I do is marketing work, because lead flow is the lifeblood. We have an incredibly strong pipeline once people are in the pipeline. I mentioned we do home visits. 8 out of 10 homes we visit enter the program. So we were having an incredibly high hit rate. We're pretty good at qualifying before we go and spend the time going there. I'm going to 2 homes tomorrow though. So by all the math we have, both of them will be in the program probably next week.
Right.
Spend a lot of time on marketing, and then if there's a bunch of deals in my pipeline, I'm working with those folks. But honestly, we don't really have to do a lot of selling. We're pretty lucky. Like we're providing something that people are looking for, and that's a really nice position to be in. I'm about to actually, as of today, I started doing a little more fundraising. I sent out an email, and I only sent it out to our existing investors. It took 13 minutes to get the first commitment back, which was a really nice turnaround. I sent out an email, just to the existing investor pool, just to see how much of the round they're going to fill up. And I'll probably know by Friday what that looks like, and then we'll widen it. So I'm hoping I don't spend as much time or too much time fundraising. And then there's just, the other business stuff, like our VP of Finance reports to me and doing numbers with her. A little bit of operations stuff that's mostly on Spencer's plate, managing vendors.
Right. And when you launched, or where you are now, like, did you localize and, then is it, what's the expansion plan?
Great question.
From Boston?
So we're focused on 53 zip codes right now. We are marketing as much as we can in those 53 zip codes, which is more or less all of the towns and neighborhoods inside 128. That said, it's very hard to keep every bit of your marketing spend inside that radius. So we'll take homes probably out to about 495. So we actually have a home in Marlboro that entered the program. It's a 2-family, so there's 2 units there. I'm going to a home in Billerica tomorrow. And actually, Spencer and I visit every single home. Our goal is to meet with every single homeowner until we hit 50 or 100 customers, just to have that familiarity with the customer base. So we're very focused in Boston right now. And we're going to do that until we hit a certain clip of adding homes to the program here. And then we will roll out a second market, and then we'll go out a third and fourth, and so on and so forth. We have not picked our second market, but we think it'll probably be something that looks and feels a lot like Boston from a whole bunch of metrics like market size, average home value, average rent, things like that. And so we like DC a lot. We like certain West Coast markets a lot. It's not necessarily a population-focused thing, but that's part of it as well.
And what are those, as you're taking in, the first batch of homes, and like you're getting more metrics on these properties, what are you looking to promote as, your key performance indicators for the clients that you have now?
Sure. So, my old company, Property Base, it's a SaaS business, software as a service. So it's a recurring revenue business, and the metrics are incredibly similar in Knox. So what does it cost us to acquire a customer? What's our annual recurring revenue from that customer? How long can we keep them around? Honestly, we have no idea how long people will stick around. Give us a few years and we'll start to be able to model that out. Right. But we think they're going to stick around for decades, because people don't really sell income property very often. We're hoping anyway. So what does it cost to acquire a customer? What's our annual revenue from a customer? And how often, how low can we keep our churn? And then that all feeds into gross margins. So we're projecting a very strong gross margin profile, and all of our projections show that, all of our execution so far shows that, and give us a year, we'll have some real numbers on that.
Right. So is the biggest competitor right now just somebody managing it themselves?
Precisely.
Okay.
So we say our biggest competitor is DIY. There are 25 million homes in America that are rented out currently, and they're privately owned. They're owned by over 10 million people like us, right? So we didn't invent this. It's not a new investment. We're just making it easy. And some people feel they can keep doing it on their own. The funny thing is, every time I sit down with somebody who's doing it on their own, and I say, well, tell me about how you're managing it. And I'll ask them a few questions. They'll talk themselves into why Knox makes more sense than managing on their own, because their real job is probably doctor, lawyer, entrepreneur, or something else, and they're just not wonderful at operating an income property as investment. So we can, they'll say things like, well, I've got this one. Yeah, I'm really undercharging on rent on that one, so I could, I know I could, but they're really nice. I'm not gonna, they're afraid of having a conversation with the tenant and raising the rent. Right? So there's all the, how are you doing it? Yeah, they're not, they go, yeah, we did this renovation on that one last year. I forgot to write that off. So they talk themselves into realizing they're not actually a professional manager. So, yeah.
And yeah, have you had any, so far, any difficult, either difficult clients to work with or tenants that they've had, any situations that were hard to get out?
Not really. I mean, again, we've 9 years of operating.
Yeah.
We had one guy who said, hey, we said to him, hey, this kitchen is really old. This is the nicest man on the planet. He's like, yeah, I don't know if I want to really do anything. And everybody who came to was like, this place is great, that kitchen. The microwave literally has dials. What's that some microwave dials on it? Yeah, exactly. And it probably irradiates you if you put your food in it. So we called him, we're like, hey, how would you feel about just replacing the microwave and maybe the fridge? And he said, all right, get me a quote for that, get me a quote for the whole kitchen. So we called a vendor we have a relationship with, and I think they went to talk to him today or something like that. So, not a crazy challenge, but that's what happened.
Yeah. No, and then as you go, as you're building, you said, or right now you're just reaching out to investors in your own network, or basically ones that have already gone in on a previous round. Do you have a plan for certain milestones that'll trigger your next round of funding, or are there, what do you want to do before you hit that Series A round? Or?
Great question. We're trying to get 2 homes coming in the program at a certain rate,
right, and
consistently. So our rate's growing right now. If we got to say 50 units a month coming into the program, we would actually probably try to cap it, because if we feel like we could throttle it, that'd be nice, and we could also see what that meant for our customer acquisition cost, if it could come down substantially if we tried to cap it. And then you say, all right, let's figure out what it takes to onboard at this rate and operate like that for a while, but let's also simultaneously aim for another market. So if we get to 30 or 50 units coming in per month, that'll probably sort of signal that we're ready to go out for an A round.
Right. And then, right, I know you mentioned, some of the management and everything is in-house, some of it is, partners you work with. Are there, the expansion path into other cities, are you going to build a new team in other areas that you launch into, or?
That's a good question.
How are you going to manage that?
So we look at our expansion a lot like other companies that have some kind of a physical presence in a lot of markets. So if you look at how Uber grew or how Lime is growing right now, the guy who was the head of global growth for Uber is now an investor and advisor to Lime, and we had coffee with him about 10 days ago. And what they do is they put a market manager in a new market. And that person may hire a small team there, but it's heavily supported by HQ. And that's the model we're going for. So when we go into a market, there's 3 things we have to do in that market. First of all, we need to generate demand, so that's marketing. Second of all, we need to rent out units, and then we need to have a maintenance relationship to answer or show up when there's something broken. All right. So marketing we can do centrally. Once we figure out Boston, we'll figure out, say, DC or Seattle or something like that. Maintenance is finding the right vendors to partner with and sign a contract with, and that's something I can send somebody there to shake a hand and get that established. But in the beginning, we're probably going to need some people in the market to actually go into homes, make sure they fit the program, to do the rentals, to put up the yard signs, things like that. We actually have yard signs that say "definitely not for sale" that are beyond order going up. So. Yeah, so there's got to be a physical presence, but hopefully it's just a small handful of people. Uber has several offices in Boston, in Greater
Right.
Boston, although obviously their HQ is in California. So it'll probably be like that.
Okay. And first, I wanted to open it up for some questions before from the audience before we bring it back for some final questions here.
Would you work only with existing homeowners, or would you also help potential investors to get funding besides their equity and in the property and then manage it?
So our business is not to help you get funding. We launched a realtor partnership program, so we don't help people buy homes either. So we're not a real estate broker that helps you buy or sell a home. We could refer you to a realtor who has experience finding rental properties, and then we would back them up. So if you find a home you think is right, you say, hey, this is the address, we'd run it through our system, send you a report, and say this is what it looks like as an investment based on our data set. As far as capital, we can definitely find you the note. Like if you said, hey, I've got 150 grand to put down as a down payment on a unit, and then you go out with the realtor and find it, we would love to be the guys who find you the mortgage on the rest of the money you need. So that we have a mortgage brokerage operation, like I mentioned. So that is a big part of what we do. And sometimes actually we'll do a refi on a home, and then that person will move out and they'll need a mortgage on their next home. So we're actually writing two notes for the same person or couple.
Is that a profitable side of the business? You just profit for you, not just commission.
It is. So yeah, as a brokerage, it's a commission. We'd like to get to the scale eventually when we actually have our own pool of capital for lending. So we go out to, say, like the PIMCOs of the world or the Invescos, and they set aside a pool of capital specifically for this purpose. That was our original plan, and we thought we'd get there a lot sooner than we do now. We're actually we like the mortgage brokerage business a lot, don't get me wrong, but it's not a super big focus, we've learned, because such a small percentage of our customers actually are interested in financing. Like we mentioned it to everybody, a lot of people are like, no, we're good. Or they're retired, they don't want any debt at all. Yes? Is that a question?
Do we have other questions? Oh.
So what are the barriers to entry for your competitors?
There's a lot of them. So it took us the better part of a year to actually get a product into the market. Without sort of giving away the playbook. We've built a bunch of proprietary data models and software in order to do what we do. We've actually identified all the homes in the zip codes I mentioned that we want the program. We've sliced and diced the numbers. We know who's likely to move. We know which homes will be profitable as rentals and which will be less profitable as rentals. We know who is more likely to want to be in the program and not due to other factors. So we spent a long time looking at data models. So that's a pretty big barrier to entry. We've built software that helps us build the reports and do the analysis. And then we've built the technology that runs the units. So all of that is a pretty high bar. And then you also have to know how all these pieces fit together, and that's something that you have to kind of be weird and have the experience that we do to be there. So these people have to come together in the way that we did, and that's a weird alchemy. But yeah, there'll be copycats to what we do. We know that. If we know
So you're a first mover.
Yeah.
But what often happens is that people that are most successful are the second movers.
Sometimes.
Like the first one does.
Yeah, people mention that story and they go, look what happened to Yahoo. And I say, yeah, the founders of Yahoo are really, really in trouble now. But the answer is they're billionaires, right? So I'm with you. Sometimes the settlers are killed by the Indians, or the pioneers are killed by the Indians, and the settlers have the libraries named after them, right? So we get that, but hopefully we won't get killed in the process.
Can you patent your software?
Can we patent our software? There's so little software out there that's actually truly patented. Like what's at the heart of it is usually trade secret, and that's kind of where we'll keep it.
You have a question? Yep.
Yeah, my name is Victor, and I have the following question. So you provide both short-term and long-term rent?
Right now we just do long-term rentals.
Okay.
The short-term rental market, I own a short-term rental property. I love that market, don't get me wrong. In the zip codes we're focused in, right now, a lot of places, including where we're sitting right now, Cambridge, you can't rent for less than a month by statute. So we're staying away from that. If we got to the point where our growth was limited because we weren't offering short-term rentals, we would either build that operation or acquire one of the, there's a lot of really great short-term rental startups that are doing really strong revenue these days. So we would probably acquire that operation, to be honest with you. I don't see that happening anytime soon. If we're going to expand our market reach, it's going to be geographically rather than by product for a while. It's what it looks like right now 90 days in. Good question.
How would you differentiate yourself if Airbnb, for instance, went into the business of being a more holistic player, just like you are?
Yeah, so I have zero worry about that, knowing Chesky and what those guys are doing. Or not necessarily, I don't know them, just having read and listened to what they're doing. I think if Airbnb started offering long-term rentals through Airbnb.com, we would see it as a marketing channel for the units that are in our program. And we'd be psyched to use. I love Airbnb. I'm a huge fan of Airbnb. I'm a customer. I'm a host. I make a lot of money on Airbnb. And they just do so much right. So I would love it if they came into the long-term rental space and brought that kind of experience to it. So that would be really cool. I don't think that they're going to start taking over properties, because the first thing they would do is take over short-term rentals. They got 3 million homes on Airbnb, something like that. So they would start taking over that space. But I'd love it if they started offering long-term rentals on Airbnb. That would be, they could be the place you search for that if they decided to do it. That'd be cool.
Yep. So when you go out there for potential clients, do you guys have how do you guys do it knowing that you just have a 5? Like you said earlier, you have a 5 team. You guys have 5. So that's from what you're telling me. I mean, from what telling everybody, it looks as though the 5 team, that's not going to be enough. So I can go out there for clients.
Oh, for sure, it's not going to be enough. We got to scale, but so. Let me talk about the whole sales process, because it'll be a better answer. Leads come in, we follow up with them very quickly if it's during daylight hours. Otherwise, we'll follow up with them, first thing in the morning. We have a whole follow-up sequence. Somebody grabs the lead first. Just grabs the lead, follows up. We put them through sequences we've built. As much of that as automated as possible. Plus, they get an automated sequence of emails. When we get them on the phone, we tell them about our program, we qualify their unit, we have a conversation, and if they're interested and it seems copacetic, then we call that an opportunity. We schedule an appointment to come and walk through the unit. And at that point, like I said, 8 out of 10 sign up to date. So we schedule that, we show up, and we shake their hand, we walk around their home. They usually give us a tour of their home. Most people are very proud of the homes they own. It's actually really fun to watch people, I don't want to use the word brag, but lightly brag about, oh yeah, we renovated this, and this is where my son does his artwork, and whatever else. And then shortly thereafter, we usually send them a more detailed analysis, and then paperwork, and they sign up. So right now we're sending 2 people at least to every home. Just again, it's so important to get face-to-face with your customers and hear what they have to say. And right now the volume is low enough that we can do that. Eventually we'll probably just send 1 person. So that'll be simpler. And we actually just hired somebody in business development the other day, so she can go out and do some of this work for us. If somebody was doing 2 appointments a day and they even had a 50% hit rate, they'd be signing 10 customers a month on their own. So we would have to do some hiring, obviously, but we're very, if the challenge is how quickly can we get to everybody's home and they start signing up, we'll happily hire a bigger team.
Yep.
I guess from your experience at Boston Logic, when scaling the company and hiring a bunch of people, what were the most difficult kind of aspects of having a small team but keeping that culture as you grew? And did you learn something that you think?
I learned 1,000 things. First lesson I said earlier is you got to be very careful with who you hire. And I think I've always sort of felt that you don't want to manufacture your culture. You'll know if people are right incredibly quickly. People are making a positive impact. As a manager, as a founder, people will tell you. People will come up to you and say, "Hey, great, Steve's a great hire. Good job on that." Or a client will spontaneously email you and say, like, "Steve's a good one. Well done. Like, you guys are bringing on good people, right?" You can just get spontaneous feedback on it. So if you're not getting that in your people, you gotta like ask yourself, are you doing the right thing? And people who come to work and are surrounded by wonderful contributors who are leading healthy lives, that just has an alchemy that causes good culture, right? If you have the opposite happening, there were periods of Boston Logic where culture was not super wonderful. You would sort of ask yourself, okay, who are we bringing on the right people, and are we making sure that they are supported in the way they need to? Do they feel like are they learning? Are they supported in the way they need to be? Do they have all the tools at their disposal they need? And do they feel like they're making an impact? Do they feel like they're coming to work every day and they're making a customer really happy, or they're making the company accelerate, or they're building something that they're proud of? And if those three things are happening, they're going to be happy, and people around them will be. If it's happening to people around them, they'll be happy, and culture will blossom.
And then I just, I always like to, ask if there's a lot of early stage startups here. Any advice you have for somebody that's starting out now and on building their ventures, or what to do, what not to do on?
A lot of things happen. Yeah. Anybody have any early stage questions specifically? That'd be easier. A lot of things I would say is I'll quote some really smart people. So Mark Andreessen often says, if you're not embarrassed by your first launch, you waited too long. So get a product in the market, get some customers and talk to them, and that will inform all sorts of stuff. Like, we spent all this time, as I mentioned, building a mortgage brokerage operation that kind of sits dormant, 27 days a month. So that was like a huge part of our building process, and who knew? And now we look back and the facts were all around us, but we just paid attention to other facts.
Yeah.
That's sort of bullet one. Bullet two is keep your team really lean for as long as you can. Don't be like, if you're constantly going, I wish I had this person, I wish I had that person, just throw yourself at whatever the problem is, or whatever the body of knowledge you need to learn is. You'd be shocked at what you can pick up in 3 to 5 days from online videos and poking and trying. And there's a piece of software called Boomi, which is owned by Dell, and it's this gargantuan middleware product. Well, they happen to have really good online training, and so I hacked my way in to figure out how to integrate some pieces of software that we needed to have talking to each other. You could also hire a consultant for $10,000 to do it, and then they'd walk away, and then you'd have to figure out how to maintain it, or call them for $500 an hour later, or you can learn how to use it yourself and get most of the way there and maintain it yourself later. So, that's actually one of the biggest strengths of my co-founder, Spencer, is that he will throw himself at anything and go from 0 to 1 and get it somewhere. And when something is sitting still and a couple days later it's got motion, that's the hardest part. That's the biggest value that you can create, and that's why I co-founded the company with him.
Startup question. What about advisory boards? When do you recommend starting getting advisors, and in what capacity? Shareholder ones, or?
Super early, super duper early. We had a board of advisors at Boston Logic that was so incredibly valuable. I don't even know how to put a value on it, a price on it. But I do have one piece of advice on how to build your board of advisors. You just sit down in a room and you say, all right, here are the 4 people I know that if they were on my side, and if I had them in a room with their undivided attention for 4 hours every quarter, my business would, by 0 doubt, accelerate and grow faster and be better. And then you set a lunch with each of them, and you chat with them. You say, hey, I've actually After you've caught up a little bit, you say, hey, I actually asked you to lunch because I want to invite you to be a member of our board of advisors. And they should respond like this. They should breathe in and go, I'd love to. If they have any hesitation, then you should just politely say, okay, I really appreciate it, but no. But they should just be enamored with what you're doing and with you and want to be part of that experience. My other thing is you got to compensate them. So I would give them some cash for showing up, like $1,000 a quarter or something like that, and I would give them an option package. But yeah, build a board of advisors, and people love being involved in stuff. They love feeling like they're helping and feeling like something that they help to plant is growing. And you'd be amazed like what people will give you in their time and their wisdom.
How's your lunch schedule tomorrow?
What's that?
You have lunch scheduled?
I don't think I do.
There you go, already making connections.
There you go.
And then how can, so everybody came out to hear you tonight. How can we all follow along with the Knox story and stay updated and
Sure.
find out
So
more information?
our website is knoxfinancial.com, KNOX financial.com. So check us out there. And we're on every social media outlet you might expect: Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, etc. And if you want to come by and visit our office, we're in the financial district, and you're certainly welcome to come and chat and have a cup of coffee with us.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Great job.
Thank you.